What is some of her background? Just kind of fill us in on the truth of NaZiyah.
You want to go first, Kiwana, or you want me to go? Or
you can go. It's fine.
NaZiyah was sweet. She was quiet, affectionate. She was an innocent child. She loved to dance. Ever since she was small, 6 months old, she could dance better than most grown people. Really good in school, well behaved. She was isolated, so she didn't get the opportunity to even achieve her full potential.
Okay, Kawana, do you want to share?
Yeah, she was, like she said, she was a really loving young lady. She loved attention. She loved being around family. She was the typical little girl. She really was. And as she said, she just didn't have, the proper support.
Okay, and I like to let the audience know, NaZiyah, that name is kind of like a little different name for me, NaZiyah. She was a young 13-year-old, coming home from school on the school bus, as any other child would have. And for what all we know for right now, that she never made it home. NaZiyah was really just basically in the limelight that she was about to just go. Am I correct? Was she going home, or was she going to visit? Can you kind of tell us something about her getting off the bus and what came next?
For what we understand, she was supposed to get off the bus and go home. We've been isolated from the family because of our feelings towards situations going on in the household. But basically, what we got information from family members who have spoken to us, she was supposed to come home and she didn't.
Okay. She was supposed to come home and she didn't, and she's 13 years old. So how do you have any idea, Kawana, how long it was before anyone realized that she was not home? She did not come home or get off the bus to come home, to go home?
Honestly, I think it was too long before anyone in the house realized that she didn't get off the bus and come home, because I would have realized right away that my child wasn't walking in the door at the normal time that they usually walk through the door.
Okay, what was that time frame? Could you share with the audience the time frame before they really realized that she wasn't home?
Well, from what I read in like news reports and things like that, and the police that I talked to, she should have been arriving home a little bit after 3:00. I even went over there and sat on the corner of Cornwall and Auto Drive and watched the buses come. I wasn't exactly sure which bus she was on, but all the buses came within 2 to 3 minutes of each other and were gone by 3:10. So she should have been home between 3 and 3:15, because the house is right around the corner from the bus stop. Not even a 5-minute walk.
Literally.
So again, has anyone figured out the amount of time what was the time frame that she actually became missing?
We know they said that she went missing after getting off of the bus. That's all we know. We just learned recently that they didn't realize she was missing until around 6:00.
And that's when the police called? Did the mother, the guardian notify the police?
No, all the information we received is that they claimed that they went to look for her, but no neighbors on that block. We went and asked when we passed out flyers. The neighbors on that block said they didn't even know a little girl was missing, especially not the little girl from that house, because they were familiar with that house.
Right.
They were familiar with the house.
Yeah.
Were there any other children, young children, older children in the house that you know of?
Multiple children frequent that household and live in that household. At least, let me see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 11 children.
Wow.
Have lived in that house recently. And currently there are 7 that live there and 2 others that may possibly still frequent that household.
One of the things, Lori, if I can interject for a second,
Yes.
one of the questions that is commonly asked in terms of the family, I want to, get through this and go on to some other things, but not only were there a lot of small children in the house, it has become public knowledge in terms of, number one, everybody knows Jarvis Butts, who is been identified as the suspect in this crime, and of course, as of today, has been bound over to trial to face all of those charges and even increased charges. The prosecutor added, or it upgraded, I think is the better term, a charge today. So we are grateful for that. But one of the questions that I get a lot in the comments is asking about the grandmother's history in terms of her having her own children and how she was able to get foster children. And then was Jarvis Butts living in the home or not? Things like that. If you guys could clarify for us any, whatever information you can share. Because of course, this is still an ongoing investigation. So we don't want to say anything that's going to interfere with that process, but anything that you guys can share in terms of the dynamics of the home, as far as the access maybe that Jarvis had to the children. You said how many children were in the house, but again, like I said, with the public already being aware that there was issues with the grandmother, would you either one of you know how she was able to bring in foster children in the home?
You want to answer that, Kiwana, or you want me to answer it?
It don't matter. You can answer.
Lies. She lied. And I'm assuming that foster care didn't do a very good check on her when she was able to even get custody of NaZiyah and her brother, as well as not as when she was able to get the other foster children she has cared for, as well as the 2 children that she fostered and has adopted.
And also, I would like to add, we found that she had only made them aware that she had 2 children, and she has more than 2 children. So I don't know if cases were missed from that. I'm not sure, but
she has 7 children, and from what I understand, I have people I know who work in foster care and things like that. They ask you about your children. They want to interview your children, see how your children are, how they turned out, where they life with, what type of upbringing they had. Well, unfortunately, out of her 7 children, the first one ran away at a very young age. The second one, he stayed home to 18 and went to school. Then Zaya's mother, she has had some difficulties in life and ran away at 13. Then the next child ran away at 16. Then the next child left at 17 or 18. And they just all have been going through some triumphs in their life that we feel they would have never had to go through if they had had better parenting. This is one reason why my father, my father and my grandmother tried to help Annette when she was young. And she wasn't receptive to the help that she received. My grandmother and father got her 11 years old. She was pregnant. My grandmother helped her get a HUD home, pay for attorneys to help her get her baby because he ended up becoming a ward of the state because she was so young. and Annette just continued to be promiscuous and things like that. But she was a victim of a lot of trauma herself.
Yeah.
So her children, they have some issues too. You know, everybody got their problems, but it's to the extreme.
If I may ask, Deborah, I'd like to ask this question: how did the alleged accuser, how did he even come into contact? I'm trying to figure out, how did she get in contact with him? She lived in one residence and he lived in another. What was the connection of the contact?
As far as NaZiyah,
Yes.
her aunt, my niece, her aunt Shannon, that was her boyfriend, the father of her children. Wherever Shannon was, he was.
Okay. So I guess a lot of the people, I'm getting some people are dinging me on the other end, but they're trying to understand. They thought that the child lived with the aunt.
No, NaZiyah was living with her grandmother, Annette. But Shannon was always over Annette's house prior to moving back in with her. I think she moved back in maybe August or something of 2023. She was living in a townhome that I let her go live in. She was living in a townhome. It's a Section 8 townhome. I incomed out of it when I graduated from nursing school. I signed it over to her thinking it would be a stepping stone to help her and her children. And we would keep it in the family, and maybe the next person who needed a stepping stone to go finish school or whatever could use it. Well, Shannon got evicted from that townhome because of her and her shenanigans with Jarvis. So she ended up having to move back in with Annette sometime in August or September of 2023. That's how she got back in the home with Annette. But prior to that, NaZiyah was with Shannon all the time in her home. And Jarvis was where Shannon was when he was with Shannon and not the others that he was with.
Does anybody know how he was able to stay in the house with minors, being that he had been a sex offender, even imprisoned?
We were told that he was no longer on parole and that he could be around children. Yeah. But I thought the law was that you can't even live in the vicinity of school. So how is it that you can live in a house with children that are not yours, which it really didn't matter if they was his or not. He violated them. So, but that's what we were told. Most recently, when all this stuff happened, they said that's why.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Kiwana.
We were told that most recently. Also, I was told that upon me calling Protective Services while Shannon was living in Clinton Township, my question to them was just that: why and how is he allowed to be around the children? Because we kept constantly being told that they're not finding any signs of abuse. And so that was one of my questions. Well, there's a pedophile in and out the home, right, basically living there, on a regular basis. Isn't that enough? And that's what they told me, that it wasn't.
I want to get off into that too, in terms of the CPS cases. I want to cover that. But now I think I remember correctly, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, that there was something, or at some point, Jarvis was not on the registry, sex offender registry. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, when I initially found out that Jarvis was a sex offender, it's almost 12 years ago.
Wow.
And I asked Shannon about it. She didn't tell me. I stumbled over it because of a situation where he had got arrested and had her daughter in his custody at that time. He had the child, and we had to go get the baby because he got arrested. So I was looking him up to see what he got arrested for. Then it popped up his Otis information saying that he was a sex offender and had sexually assaulted a child under the age of 13. And I looked at Shannon, and I was like, Shannon, he's a sex offender. Yeah, he said the girl lied. I'm like, it says the girl was 13, and then I did the math on his age. I said he was 24. So it ain't no lie there. Yeah, but you know, he did his time. And I'm like, nah, nope. I was like, you need to leave him alone. Over the course of the years, I would tell her, you need to leave him alone. He was not good to her. He did not treat her well. He did not teach the children well at all. He fathered them. He created them, but he was not a father figure that I would have tried to hang on to for the kids. But anyways, I looked on the sex offender registry and saw that he was not on there. So I called. And that's when they went after him. And eventually, maybe about 6 months later, he had to report. They registered him and he ended up on the sex offender registry.
So he was supposed to be on the registry the whole time.
The whole time. And this was like 12 years ago. But get this. His last report is 2019. He hasn't reported for his sex offender registry since 2019. So he probably wasn't reporting it very often in between those times either.
Yeah.
So you said he fathered some children. So you're saying that in the time frame that he was with your stepsister?
No, he was with my niece Shannon.
Your niece Shannon, that he actually fathered some children in the home or outside the home?
He has 5 children with Shannon. It was almost 6.
Oh, okay. And okay.
Yeah.
There's a question though that popped up as well in the comment section about him having 13 children.
He has more than 13.
I've listened to other podcasts covering the story, and I heard the number 20.
20.
He has more than 20 children.
He has more than 20 children.
He has adult children that are almost the age of Shannon.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
What is she in her early 30s, right?
Shannon's 31, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think his oldest daughter is around the age of 26, 27. He's my age. He's 42.
Yeah. Because even the judge said it in her ruling that he had 13 children. And I think it came from that interrogation he did with the detectives. And I guess maybe he only claims 13 of them.
That's his snooky number. He says that all the time.
Oh, yeah. I thought I remembered hearing the number 20. But as far as that is concerned, he has other children with underage girls.
From what I understand,
he already has, right?
Yeah, from what I understand, his older children were all with girls in their teens, and he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
And then along the time when Shannon was dating him, and they was going back and forth with each other, there was a young lady who was like 18 who said that her child was his. I don't know whatever came along with that, but yeah, it's possibly she's one of the young ladies that's listed on the friend of the court registry.
So do you think, Deborah, please don't let me get ahead of myself, but I have to ask this question. Did NaZiyah, did she ever show or talk or say anything to anybody? I mean, any hints,
Yes, she did.
The world wants to know. I mean, this is a young 13-year-old child, and from my understanding, this took place a year ago. Today.
She told. No,
she did tell.
It all started, my issue, me and Shannon were thick as thieves. I love the children. I would go around, went to Disney World, we traveled together. Then she called me and told me that it was a birthday party in February of 2022 for her second daughter's birthday. And most of the children, pretty much all the children were at the house, the grandchildren. There was one little girl who was Annette's other sister's daughter was there. Now, this child had never been around Jarvis alone before. Or I think she might have been at the birthday party or something, adult birthday party, but it was at a hall. But she was at Shannon's home, and this young lady was so afraid. Shannon's telling me this. She ran upstairs, frantic and afraid and scared and wanting to go home and wanted to call her mother because Jarvis touched her inappropriately while she was in the basement playing with the puppy. While this little group, now Jarvis was on a game. He wasn't thinking about going up there with Shannon or nothing. Shannon says all of a sudden, while she's up there, she's trying to calm this little girl down and talk to her. Jarvis comes and knocks on the door and says, "What's wrong with her?" And I said, "Shannon, why are you calling me? Is he dead or is he in jail?"
Mm-hmm.
No, he left. What you mean he left? Call the police. Let them know where he's going, what car he's in.
Right.
Well, I'm about to take her home, then I'm going to call my mama. What? So I called her back like maybe 30 minutes later. Like, did you call the police? No, my mama said bring the kids home tomorrow morning. She going to talk to them. I'm like, no, y'all don't need to talk to them. You need to contact the police. She did not contact the police. I found out later the police were never contacted. The next day when I called Shannon, I talked to her. She said, my mama talked to them and said the kids end up telling us they lied. They was mad because he wouldn't give them no money. So I called Annette and I said, Annette, are you guys going to call the police? She said, yes, we're handling. I'm going to call the police. So I left it alone. Like, she's going to call the police. Shannon assured me that the police had been called, they were involved, there was an investigation going on, all of this. This was in February 22. Well, in April of 22, I called Shannon in a lie. The police were never called. The children were not receiving counseling. Nothing had happened. So I went to the Clinton Township Police and I told them that I wanted to make a report. They told me I couldn't make a report because I didn't have enough information about the child who actually accused him of the sexual abuse. I said, but the other children also accused him of sexual abuse. They said, well, they didn't happen that night. And I'm like, he said, it would probably be best for you to call CPS. So I called CPS and I told Shannon I called CPS. I said, if y'all didn't call, I told you to call the police. I told you to get the kids help. You didn't do it. So I'm calling CPS. I'm not only you, but I'm calling them on your mama too. Because it happens, whatever's happening at your house is most likely happening at your mother's house. They never called. And then that's when Kiwana got involved. I didn't, my husband knew what was going on. And a few other people who knew Shannon because she had told them stories. But this is how Kiwana got involved. So I'll let Kiwana tell what happened on her end.
So then I end up going over there to drop off NaZiyah some clothing. And once I got there, Shannon pulled me to the side and said, I got to tell you something. And I go, okay, what's going on, little cuz? And she said, that Janelle and called Protective Services on me and lied and said that Jarvis was doing something to the kids. I said, what do you mean? She called Protective Services to say Jarvis was doing something to the kids. How would that come about? So that's when she went to tell me, it was a party, and she explained that what happened at the party, and that they end up questioning children and her daughter, along with NaZiyah, along with my other little cousin, which I've never met, had expressed to her that Jarvis offered them monies to do things inappropriately. She said, however, she found later on that her daughter was lying. And I said, Shannon, kids don't lie about stuff like that. But a child not gonna come and tell that something like that happened and just be lying. You need to further investigate. No, that Janelle just trying to start some stuff. I said, no, I don't feel like she trying to start no stuff. I feel like she care and concerned about what's going on in the household as far as the children. This is outside of you and her relationship. This is about looking out for the children. And so we began to go back and forth. And I became, what she like to call it, being as though now I'm taking up for the kids. So I contacted Janelle and said, what's going on because we hadn't talked for a little while. And I said, explain to her what I had heard and what Shannon had said, and she told me what happened and what transpired. So that's when I called Protective Services.
Could you tell me the length of time it was before either one of you called? Because it seemed like it was a long stretch before the police and Child Protective Services was notified.
The initial incident happened in February of 2022. I was told that the authorities were involved. When I found out that the authorities were not involved, Shannon was lying to me.
22 or 24?
22.
22.
Okay.
So in April of 22, I figured out another incident happened where a child was doing some sexually inappropriate things. And I said, well, what's going on with the case? And isn't she in counseling? And you need to go to the police and take the phone. She sent pictures to somebody on Instagram. She had told somebody else. She tell people this stuff like it's nothing, like it's the normal everyday thing. She told somebody who wouldn't even relate her to this story, and they called me to tell me what she said. And then I called her to ask her about it. So that's when I called CPS in April, when I found out she had lied to me.
April of which year?
2022.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then Kiwana called me. I don't even think it was like maybe 3-4 weeks later. Kiwana called. Other family members had already called and were calling when all of this was going on because I wasn't getting any response from CPS. The CPS worker that I talked to told me the children denied it. I said, so look at the adults. If the children are not going to tell you I said, would you take the children out of the household and question them? No. I'm like, because they're afraid to say anything because they're in the Shannon internet looking right in their face. Then I said, if the children are not going to tell it because they're afraid, then start looking into the adults. Well, we haven't found any credibility of the complaint.
Even with him in the house, been in prison.
She told me that he was not on parole and he could be in the house around children.
But he had been to prison for the same accusation. No, not accusation. He was convicted and imprisoned for the same thing.
This is what troubles me. I made this complaint in April of 2022. And there were several other complaints by myself, Kiwana, and other family members after that. This man had a CPS case basically stating the same thing in 2015 and 2018 from completely different families.
Yeah, sure did. And also
girlfriends.
Sure did. Sure did. And after I ended up calling Protective Services, one of the children had began to contact me and express things that were going on in the house, right? Because, I talked regularly with the children, even when they tried to isolate me, I'm not going to say names of the children, but one of the eldest children would try to contact me or contact me outside of their knowledge. It began them having to sneak and call me now because, they don't want us around. We get in their business. We're calling Protective Services. And so, I went on to, talk to workers, try to get custody, continue to call. I made calls not just in Wayne County, but again in Clinton Township. So there was calls, Clinton Township, Wayne County. The Clinton Township calls was against Shannon. Wayne County was against Auntie Annette household. And then both stories were being told to both Protective Services, that city and this in that city. And
we did get a little bit of action. A little bit of action when it was another young man who was much older than NaZiyah that she was acquainted with. And that's the reason why Annette had to move, is what I was told. She had to move away from that young man because NaZiyah was having an inappropriate relationship with him, and that's the reason why.
Is this the autistic guy?
Yes.
Yes.
And then I also was told that they told Shannon at this point that Jarvis could not come around the children.
Who told her that?
CPS.
Okay.
This is what I was told by someone. I don't know for sure, but this is what I was told by someone at CPS, that Shannon, that he was not supposed to be around the children at that point, because I guess we had called so many times.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I want to go back to something real quick when Lori was asking about if NaZiyah had said anything or that it would gave any type of inclination that anything was wrong. And I want to mention this from the court proceedings that have been going on this week, when the teacher or substitute teacher testified that the last day was, I presume it was the last day that NaZiyah was in school. She came in her room. Apparently, this particular sub had a rapport with NaZiyah. She would give her candy every day or something like that, and she would come in her room and talk to her. And the lady said that NaZiyah laid on the floor and said she needs to see a counselor. But it so happened that the counselor never came in that day. And so, and of course, we didn't see her anymore. So that was one thing. And then I wanted to ask you guys about this, if you were aware of this that I heard on one of the videos from another podcast. It said, okay, that NaZiyah was telling her classmates that she was planning to run away because she was pregnant. Had you guys heard anything about that?
Yeah, we heard so much. That was after she went missing. So yeah, we've heard that. We have heard every accusation, scam. Yeah, we heard that.
Okay. I wanted to clear that up. And then also, now I believe, Kiwana, you pretty much grew up around NaZiyah's mom, and being close to in the unit, and being in NaZiyah's life actively. Well, I guess both of you were in her life actively up until the cases being filed and whatever rift caused the family to that broke down the family. So can you talk about, Kiwana, how well, first of all, let's clarify for the public how long Jarvis has been around, because the information that is out there, only indicates from that he started abusing NaZiyah back in
I just, like I've been telling people for the longest, it's not only is NaZiyah family hurting, but his family is hurting, because that's got to be devastating to find out your family member, your son, your brother, his other children, to find out your father can do something like this. So that's how I feel about her testimony.
Okay, Kiwana.
You know, I'm gonna let it. I'm gonna let her. I think she did a very good job. I appreciate her testimony. You know, I have a few mixed feelings, but I do respect that she got up there and you know, she expressed what she needed to and spoke against her brother. You know, we needed her to do that, and she did that. So I absolutely appreciate that. You know,
Right.
and so I'm gonna just leave it there. For now, you know.
All right. I wanted to, I definitely wanted to ask about that. Is it, so I'm going to ask again. There was a situation in the courtroom the other day. Can we talk about that or briefly?
Briefly, because we it wasn't us who did it. So, but
no.
Are you talking about the child's testimony or?
Yeah, at that time, what happened?
Yeah, there's an article about that.
Okay, great. If we can talk about that really quick.
Newspaper articles out about basically what the child had said.
But we don't. But I don't mean talk about the child's testimony as opposed to
what happened after
an altercation.
Yeah. The altercation that happened after the child testified.
Wait, let me stop you one more time, Janelle.
Okay.
Because I want to preface this. I want to make sure I preface this with the audience so they know what's going on. Those of you that were live streaming with us or any other wherever else all week long know that, you know, we would have to wait sometimes for the court cameras to come on. And on Tuesday, was it Tuesday?
I think it was Tuesday.
On Tuesday,
the third day.
Yeah. There, from our end, those of us who work directly in the courtroom, we're waiting on the cameras to come on. They had taken a lunch break, so we came back and waited on them. So we waited or whatever. And then finally, after their lunch break, they turned the cameras back on. Well, when they did, Judge Sabri, which is her name,
in her chamber,
Sabri, said, we have I think it's called a something 5 testimony, but whatever the legal term is, it's indicative of a child testimony. So she asked everybody to turn their cameras off. So we, you know, of course they shut us down, and I guess whoever was there recording had to turn off. So when we came back from that, finally, because someone in the comments said, how long is this going to take? And I said, you know, this is really strange, because with children, they don't try to keep children on the stand too long because it's traumatic for them. And then you got to think about a child sitting there looking at the defendant, especially if they're testifying against them and all of that. I said, so I don't understand what's taking so long, because they don't usually keep children on the stand this long. And then finally, the cameras came back on. I said, oh, here we go. And okay, a few seconds go by and bloop, just abruptly it goes off again. So I want you to start from there.
The information was actually given to Kiwana. I don't know if you want to tell what actually happened, Kiwana, or you want me to tell it.
I'll tell it. You know, upon her testimony, her father was upset, you know, like any father would be. And him listening to his daughter, you know, say the things that she said, and not just the fact that he did the things that he did to NaZiyah and to another family member, but he tried to do it to his daughter. He was vivid. He was upset, and they had to escort him out of the courtroom because he did exactly what any parent would do.
He did exactly what somebody should have did a long time ago. And I commend him from that. Me and him have not always saw eye to eye, but I commend him from that. Cause that was real, like.
I don't think that the audience knows what happened, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Basically, he tried to get him. He tried to get Jarvis, and they had to send them in there to get him away from Jarvis. Jarvis and his attorneys had to go back in that little holding room with Jarvis. The judge went in her chambers. Everybody was crying.
Yeah.
People had to duck and dodge because he was about to handle the business, and he said he basically didn't care about what was going on.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Well,
he do not play about his daughter.
No.
But I can tell you guys in watching the live stream today, Jarvis Butts was limping and had bruises.
Oh, he been limping.
Not
he
like
been
that.
limping, but he had those bruises. Somebody clapped him up every time he go to court. Since that arraignment, he get knocked up a little bit.
That's what I said too. Yeah, he.
That's why he
was a little beat up the other day. He was pulling that mask up higher and higher. If it go any higher, it's gonna be on his forehead.
Yeah.
Right.
So and I had to ask. I said, the inmates allowed to have TV, so you know they watching.
Oh yeah.
Sure is.
Oh, they know.
Oh yeah. They FaceTime and everything else in prison now.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So they got access. They probably got people who on this live that called in there and told their family members that's in there, hey, his name is.
Oh yeah. Sure did.
Yeah. So
he's not in he's in a jeopardizing situation right now. He not going to sleep.
No, I wouldn't.
I would just
confess and tell everything. Cause they gonna
but
stay on him until he do.
Around, guys. He doesn't look remorseful to me
at all.
No.
Even when today they was asking, somebody yelled out, "Tell us where she at."
Yeah,
and he just kept walking. He ain't flinching nothing. But what got me was it was something in the comments the other day about the judge was like, "Is he crying?" I was like,
"He tried to cry." He tried to cry. He tried to cry because he know when he get back to that cell, he gonna get beat up again.
That was right after that DNA reading, and he was going in the back. They was going to lunch, and she was like, "Is he crying?"
But here's the thing, because, and again, I'll refer to the comments. I have gotten so many comments like, why was this guy still walking the streets? Why was it, because it just don't make sense. I mean, he's just going around, messing up all of these young girls and affecting their lives and whatever to the families and all of that. And it's a genuine question. You don't, of course, advocate for stuff like that, for violence or whatever, but in somewhere down the line, Jarvis Butts was never dealt with properly.
Absolutely.
He has not had a reason to even attempt to change his behavior. When you all were talking earlier and said when he got out of prison for the first charge, I would almost bet money that he came home and resumed his normal activities of abusing children, because it is very, very hard to rehabilitate a pedophile. Let me tell y'all, I'm talking to the audience now. It is zero to slim to none that you're going to rehabilitate a child sexual offender. Ladies, don't bring these jokers home over your children. You cannot do it. Even if you want to say, oh, well, he did his time, and who am I to judge? And listen, let me tell you something. That is a sickness that is literally almost, you literally almost cannot ever recover from. Recovery is a part of addiction, any addiction. Drugs, some people are addicted to sex, some people are addicted to food. Whatever the addiction is, a relapse, is a part of recovery. So if a sex offender relapse, guess what? They go back to raping, abusing children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to make that point very quickly. Now, let's get to, so we can wrap up, because we got a couple more things to do. I want to talk about cousin Roxy. I want to go there. We got a late start and we didn't cover everything, and maybe we'll get a chance to do this again. I want to talk about cousin Roxy. A lot of comments were in this week while we were watching or while we were streaming the preliminary hearings about cousin Roxy. Cousin Roxy has been, and I'm calling her cousin Roxy. She has been the visible face, so to speak, of this NaZiyah situation. And people, I heard a lot of things. Roxy is the reason why this has gotten national attention. Roxy is the one who brought all of this together and did this and did the other. And that, that was one of the things that I wanted to kind of put forth and make sure that other people in the family love this child. I mean, really love this child. Regardless of what was going on in that particular unit in that home, this family didn't just neglect and abandon NaZiyah. The people in the family does not agree with how NaZiyah was being raised, what NaZiyah was being exposed to, or the other children. So when we make blanketed statements like that to say that family XYZ, well, you're talking about a whole lot of people besides those few, So I want to get to this, and I want to make sure that we cover it, because there was a lot of things that was going on. And at some point there was a rift. I think that I think am I correct in that it started maybe around the time of when they started organizing the searches for NaZiyah? Is that what happened?
It was like towards like maybe close to right before he was charged or so, or maybe a little after. I would have to look at my messages to see. But basically, all this stuff got started, like I said, in 2022. Unfortunately, my efforts did not do anything. Other family members who were involved, efforts did not do anything. At that time, we got, like I said, we had a little action where they made her move from the one guy, but it did not work. Unfortunately, I thought reporting to CPS, they're going to figure it out. CPS, the police going to get involved. But anyways, how all this stuff started most recently once NaZiyah went missing was basically Kiwana and I talking to Detective Gardner at the Detroit Public Schools Police Department. Hounding her pretty much to the point I think she got a little bit aggravated with me, and I got aggravated right back with her, saying so did Kiwana. And then they finally started all these searches and this, that, and the other. Myself and my family ended up talking to Mark D, and it went social media viral. I guess Roxy befriended Mark D. I've been knowing Mark D since 9th grade. He's done business with some of my family members. We went to high school together for a couple years. So I've been knowing him for a long time, since we was kids. So my family member had did some business with them, and so they knew who he was. So we talked to Mark. It went social media viral. Roxy, I'm not sure when, but I know like sometime in November she was supposed to be moving back to Michigan or whatever. But she was here doing all that stuff with Mark. And she ended up befriending Mark, and they became close and collaborated or whatever. So, and Roxy just had her own efforts of going, despite the police telling us to stand down or whatever, because they had everything they need. She had her own efforts, which we were okay with passing out the flyers because the police had told us to stand down. They had everything that they need from the information that we had gave them. So we did that. We continued to post. We continued to pass out flyers. Well, fast forward during all the searches that they did, they're, getting NaZiyah's name out there, we started receiving death threats and scam artists and psychics and lies. And then people calling us, beware, don't listen to her because she's a scam artist. And someone actually vandalized my house because a lot of Roxy followers believe that we didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not true. A lot of people did a lot of different things in their own way. So, and that was kind of, devastating. I'm receiving death threats that, my house is being vandalized. My job is being called. Somebody called my job asking for me, trying to get in contact with me and my supervisor. Then the security officer had to come and talk to me, and they done put up a thing. If anybody, basically they had to secure me to make sure no one came up to the job looking for me. That was crazy. That was the rift when we all was supposed to have been working together in efforts of getting NaZiyah's name out there, finding NaZiyah, working with the police with NaZiyah. And it was a few other things, but that was the main rift that had happened with all that internet stuff. Roxy made some posts on social media about us. But it's real messed up. And it's some other things. Kiwana, I don't know if you have anything you want to say.
I do actually. I have a lot I want to say on that subject. So again, like she said, for the people that's questioned who else cared, we've been there since 2022. We were making calls. We were trying to gain custody. They were denying us of doing the proper investigations because they needed a child to say that they were being abused. The calls continued to go out to CPS. We did not stop. We were still moving, trying to get help. We were still reaching out to workers. We were calling, attorneys and so on. Fast forward, again, like she stated, Roxy was supposed to, and we're planning to move here in November. When the big brother ran away, I'm not going to say his name, in September of 22, a whole lot of Facebook stuff took place. That was a result of me reaching out to Rosalind's mother, which is my older cousin, just to say, hey, I need somebody to talk to. We had begun to talk regularly. Despite the family telling me not to deal with her for various amounts of things or whatever they had going on, I said, you know what? Well, we continued to converse. That day I said, hey, this is happening. She said, you know what? I'm going to call you back. I want to make this call to Annette because they talk regularly. She did that. Once she got off the phone with my aunt Annette, her daughters attacked her. My aunt Annette daughters attacked Rosalind's mother on the internet, which is Facebook. The attacks continue to come, and that's when she posts about what was going in the home and what was going on inside the home. Fast forward, a bunch of drama, continued to happen as far as, like she said, us being spoke about on social media. I felt like that was very, that was messed up because, like she stated, we're supposed to be family. We started this. We've been doing this. We didn't just start when NaZiyah came up missing. And I put out that abuse was going on. The facts are out. Okay, the receipts are there. It was posted on Facebook, the abuse that was happening in the home. That was in September. It was put out by Roz's mother, what was going on in September in the house. That being said, everybody knew. Okay? If you follow Facebook, I at the time didn't have a Facebook. I'm going to be real clear. And so I was getting all my information about what's going on Facebook from other people. But those that know, there was a multiple arguments. And I would just say it was messed up that she did that to us, because at the time that we were standing our ground against that household, she was still in contact with Shannon. Okay, it got to a point where she was threatening us on the internet, or threatening Janelle on the internet to come and kick her ass and whoever's lying on her cousin.
It wasn't me particularly. She said anybody who lying on my cousin.
Anybody who lying on my cousin about her baby daddy being a pedophile, I'm coming to kick their ass. Listen, we were really dealing with this in real time. Okay, so fast forward, her agenda versus our agenda. Everybody had their reasoning for wanting. So our reason solely was because we love not just NaZiyah, but all those children in the house. We were very active in their lives up until the point where I found out about the abuse. She found out the abuse, and they cut us off from being able to come get the children. You know, we were at birthdays, holidays, you name it. Okay, so I don't know how things happened the way they did. I don't know why she would do the things that she would do. You know, I brought them into the equation as far as letting her mom know what was going on, you know? So again, like she said, it was just messed up to say the things that were said about us on social media. There was lies put out there, you know, and it wasn't right.
It was our families in jeopardy, our professions in jeopardy.
And let me say this. The reason why I wasn't doing the things that they wanted me to do, or she wanted me to do, because we already had the investigators letting us know we got everything we need. All we need y'all to do is not compromise the case and stay out of the way. Anything that y'all do outside of that is jeopardizing the case. The things that they see coming out in court now, that's hanging him, they already had that from the beginning. The phone calls, the telephone calls, the phone numbers that they were given, we gave them. We said when it was with Detroit Public School Police, they were Shannon and my aunt. They weren't giving them the tablets and phones and so on. We were pressing the Detroit Public School Police and saying, "Oh no, she's got this tablet. She got this social media. Oh, that's not the only phone, honey. They took that phone. That phone was taken around this time. She had a phone that her mother gave her. Y'all got to go into those records and see what was going on." Okay? So we never stopped being active as far as fighting for not just NaZiyah, but all the children. All the children.
And I'm really shocked
again,
about the school.
It was supposed to be a shared effort. It was supposed to be a shared effort, and things just went to a whole.
It just went left for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And schools are mandated reporters, so I mean, it's not like they have to prove it. Once you tell a school, any school from 0 to 12th and even college, once you tell them that there's some abuse taking place, they are mandated reporters, and that's why I guess right. You know they can't come back and tell you what they're doing. We can't. I can. I'm a mandated reporter. I have to report anything that goes on that don't look right, or that's not right, or that a child tells me, or another family member tell me, or whatever. But I can't come back and tell. I can tell the officers or Child Protective Service, but I can't come back and give you any information. So I think that's what some things got lost in the loop, you know?
Yeah.
And may I add this before we move on? I was very upset. And again, my appreciation goes out for the word getting put out there. You know, everybody had their own efforts, but I was very upset and displeased when the children's faces was put on social media. They're minors, okay? They're minors. They suffered being bullied. There was jail time given up for having to defend the bullying. You know, the older cousin that was very close to NaZiyah suffered. You know, they were bullying her. Your daddy this, your daddy that. You know, you got to be real.
Cousins going to school and trying to go to colleges. Can you imagine in school you being harassed by other kids because somebody in your family is going through this. And then you're trying to transition into college and then you being recognized there.
That's
like it naming their names. And we didn't agree with a lot of that. We was trying to keep the other children. No one knew their names or who they, who they were. People only knew who NaZiyah was, but it was just a lot of mess, and it's just unfortunate because that's not the route that we wanted to take.
Not at all.
And I got tough skin. What other people's do usually don't bother me, but when it started to bother me, when it started to jeopardize my job. I'm a nurse.
That's right. And children.
You calling my job.
And people coming to your house and people throwing threats.
I had to call the Macomb County Sheriff to my house because somebody broke the lock to my front door.
Mine too. I got the pictures to show it.
And did something to my Ring camera too. So that's troubling. Like just allowing the perception that we were involved. Like for a long time, I was mistaken. They thought I was Auntie Shannon. So I realized, they mistaken me because I'm saying I'm her aunt. They're mistaking me for Shannon. Get that. But to have some people who you're supposed to be working with to basically put things out in social media that, I'm not going to say they weren't true, but that they didn't agree with, and then have other people jump on the bandwagon of attacking you. That's just like, that's just kind of pretty,
This Jarvis guy has really disrupted you guys' life.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Let's put it where it goes. This Jarvis guy, for years and years and years, have just disrupted the whole family and the community.
Absolutely.
It's not you guys. It's not NaZiyah. It's this Jarvis guy got out of prison. We tried to help him in a place where he should have been rehabilitated, but he came out and did the same thing and just did more harm, just did more and more harm. All of this is him. Like the judge called him today, a monster.
A monster.
He's a monster.
He is.
And he needs to go back and not return.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. This whole thing has been devastating for us. And I mean, like, the most devastating, of course, is NaZiyah. But the next thing will be the fact that we don't have a relationship with the children. Like,
absolutely.
Shannon's oldest daughter, her and Shannon lived with me for about 2 years.
Wow.
Like I told you, me and Shannon was thick as thieves. She lived with me for 2 years. Her oldest daughter called me Auntie Mommy.
Wow.
Like, my kids miss them. Like, my son is 22 years old now, and he like, what? Like, I had to have a conversation with them about, like, when you was kids and Shannon was living with me, did he ever come over? Yeah, he came over, but he never came past the front door. It was only 15 minutes. But just to hear all this stuff on social media, he pissed. Like, I wish I had to pay more attention. But then again, he couldn't pay more attention because I knew that he was a sex offender, and I kind of kept my kids from over there. They would be invited to birthday parties. They didn't come. Because I couldn't, I wasn't leaving my kids over there.
No, never.
No, so it was like, I would call the kids, tell them happy birthday, maybe get them something to eat, or we'll swing by as a family, do ice cream and cake, say hello, keep on going, or we just didn't go because I just couldn't trust that.
I don't know a woman. I don't know if you guys do, Deborah, Kawana, Janelle. I don't know a woman that if a man spent that many years in prison for rape, I'm just going to say it like it is, for raping children, would allow them to come into her home and be around her children. I don't understand that part. I don't care. My husband is nice looking. I'm sure you guys have nice looking husbands. But if he raped somebody, I thought he raped somebody, you can't be with me. You can't be around me.
No, absolutely not.
I don't care. The looks has nothing to do with it. It's your actions.
No.
I mean, I don't understand how somebody let somebody sleep in your house like that.
Yeah. Low self-esteem. Yeah.
I used to always talk to her like, why is you staying with him? And one time she told me, you don't understand, that's my children's father. I'm like, girl, he everybody daddy. He got babies between your babies.
No,
I gave her a baby shower. He was supposed to come and so-called help. He was so busy trying to rush up out there to go to another girl who was having a baby. Like, and I was like, you don't deserve this. These kids deserve better. You could do better.
Yeah.
That's my kid's daddy. I said,
and they're not going to have any Social Security.
Nothing, because he ain't never had no real job.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. I think that we need to point out too. And it's a couple things because there's a question that someone asked about Roxy. I want to direct it to Kiwana. But here's something that we need to think about on social media, audience and everyone that is watching us that's under the sound of our voices, is that be careful. People become emotional and things like that. I've had to more or less break up fights in the comment section because people start going at each other's throat and this and that and the other. But you can't get to a point where you want to take it to real life.
Right.
These are, people are real people and things like that. We forget the fact, and I have to admit, I rarely even think about it with a person like a Jarvis Butts that's such a monster. I can't think of another word off the top of my head. Even with a monster like Jarvis Butts, he has children, innocent children, right? That number one are probably being abused themselves because it doesn't sound like this guy discriminates. And then number two, that have to go to school, interact in their communities and all of that kind of stuff. We have to learn how to manage our emotions and all of that stuff. Nobody should be coming home with their car vandalized and all. This is ridiculous.
That's right.
And this is why it's important that the world starts to see these two ladies because it's not like they weren't, because they were there from day one. I saw it in the comments earlier. These two have been there since 10 toes down since day one. I think I put it on the screen. So somebody out there remembers y'all, and y'all backed away from media exposure. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's what it is. Like, I never wanted my name in lights. I wanted NaZiyah's name in lights. I'm a quiet person, and because of the job that I have, I work with people who are not guilty by reason of insanity that are out in the community. So I can't have my name out there like on social media everywhere. I chose to do this to clear it up.
That's right.
I've been quiet and been working behind the scenes. And maybe I would have did things differently if I hadn't been told from day one, stand down. Thank you for the information. We got everything we need.
That's right. That's right. And if you recall our first interview, we had our faces blotted out and our voices disguised.
Because they recommended it to us for our protection because we didn't know what we was dealing with. We didn't know what was going on. We was down at the police in the meetings with the police chief. We was down there with the council, the community council for Detroit. We was talking to the police commissioner was by our side pretty much every day, on the phone with us almost every single day.
The organized searches.
Yep, to give us flyers, talk to us, keep us in the loop about things, express our concerns and stuff like that. We talked to the head detectives a few days after the 14th when everything became televised. They found out about Clinton Township from me.
Sure did.
They didn't even know that she lived in Clinton Township.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we was quiet, because they told us, pass out flyers, keep her name out there. We remaining hopeful, but this is a recovery effort.
Yeah, sure did. And we knew that.
No.
Yes, absolutely. And I made it clear. I made that clear that that's what they said.
Who go looking for bodies in the water? Go look and do that big of a search the day after announcement in some water. We already knew what it was. They had already explained that what was most likely was going to be the scenario.
Sure did.
So why would we go in abandoned houses and following leads from other social media representatives, falsifying information, go talking, accusing other people and defaming other people's characters who trying to defend themselves against these allegations and different things like that? Why would we go and do that? So people really got mad at us because we wasn't out there doing a lot of that. But that just was my choice not to do that. And who am I to tell the other person who was doing it not to do it? You know, so
Right.
But that was just real hurtful that it ended up like that. And then to the point where the sheriff is driving past my house every single night to make sure that nobody else vandalize anything or try to break. They broke the lock on my front door and broke my Ring camera.
Yeah. And guess what? Days after that, our lock was off the front door. I have the pictures to show. Sure was. So at that point, we were
And
like, "Oh no!"
I still got the death threats. I got the death threats in my thing. I get so many messages from people like saying off the wall stuff.
Just craziness. And you know, and what's crazy to me is, you know, for the judgmental people, I have seen half of them come out. You know, it's easy to sit behind your TV screen or your phone and pass judgment when you're not out doing anything about it. They didn't come out. They weren't at those meetings with us with the police chief and the organized searches and so on. They were behind their phone screens with their wine and their popcorn.
It's a handful of people who have actually went out and did. Well, I can't say for like the search efforts when they was going to the house, because I didn't go to any of that. But as far as the protests that we did and things like that, 5 to 7 people, they know who you are. Thank you. Because they've been here since day one. Day one. But as far the people who was, you know, doing all that stuff, I ain't never seen those people.
Well, did Jarvis live in Clinton Township or River Rouge area?
Deborah asked me that Jarvis' papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home.
It was his home.
He went from one girl house to the other house, to the Shannon house, to the Annette house, to the hotel, to the shop, he slept wherever.
The double lives, honey, but he lived quadruple. He had everything down packed. He would be in one lady house at this time, from that time, 2 a.m. Boom, he done left there because she got to.
That's what I said. I said, oh, the one. She said he leave at 2 o'clock. I said, oh, the other girl must work at Chrysler because they get off at 3 a.m. So he had to get home.
He was in her house.
Then he get up and go and take the kids to school for Shannon. Then go to work and recruit more women while he was at the shop, because he met most of them at the shop. Then go wherever he was going in the afternoon. So I don't know where that man lived at.
Listen, the judge said today when she was giving her ruling, she said, at first I thought you had a mental disability because it was like you had the mind of a 10-year-old. Did y'all hear her when she said that today? You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can't think of any other word for Jarvis, but scumbag, literal, just awful. But somebody asked a question, Pam Esquire, she's an attorney and fellow YouTuber. She was asking, was Jarvis on the sex registry, and why was he being allowed to be around children? You might have left out and came back in, Pam. There was at some point after he did his prison time that he was not on. Somehow he did not get on the sex registry, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And but eventually through a series of happenings, he did get placed on the sex registry and has been on ever since. And of course we know.
But his last report date was 2019.
Yeah. He hasn't reported for that since. So the thing that even the police, that's why I said it's a big systemic failure, because they should have been looking for him.
They should have picked him up. He was not
what do you call him? Multiple arrests between that time.
Yeah.
This is his second gun charge since he's been released from prison.
Yeah. This is, I don't know. Is it because he's cute?
Cute.
I mean, I don't understand what's happening. You know,
He slipped through the
He
cracks.
slipped off. He got a gift of gab.
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
You see how he
got
trying to
the
talk his
mask
way out of
always on.
everything. He got the gift of gab, and he's slick, and he know how. You see how he sit in that courtroom and stay under the radar? Quiet as a mouse.
But can I ask a question? Why he got all these women with a mask on?
Oh, he don't either. I assumed at first he didn't want nobody to see his face, but now I'm thinking it's because he got bruises.
Yeah,
it's because he done got beat up so bad and that lip busted and his teeth knocked out. Because there's no way he can go with all these thousands of people and be scared of germs. Go ahead on. You in jail with 10 or 15 people.
Right. I'm happy she made him stand up at the end, but I wish
I didn't think about that, Lord.
Down.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Say it again.
I saw the bruises on the side of his face, on the eyes, and all that. But I'm gonna say he did it to himself because I don't blame nobody. I don't believe nobody in that jail cell did that.
And to all the inmates that's tuned in, and if they run across this, thank you. Keep it going.
Go viral. Go viral.
He need to suffer every single day for the rest of his life, and hopefully
he will.
One of some of that stuff to bring him to tell us where she is, because that's my main goal now.
Children. He's a danger to all of our children.
All the way around.
And
because women ain't safe around them either, especially if they have young daughters.
And I don't think a lot of people know, like everybody know these charges for NaZiyah, but there are 8 other children, 8 other cases. One of the
so he's not through going to court.
Oh no, he go to court on the 16th to be bonded over for NaZiyah. Then it's another trial starting on the 17th for the sexual molestation of another child under the age of 13. It's multiple.
Oh, you know what? I did.
Yeah. What's that doctor?
All these charges are not just NaZiyah. There are other children.
You're right.
Dating back to 2015, whose families have came forward, or they are adults now and they came forward, or they're teenagers and came forward and said he did the same.
Oh, he's another one of those. What's that doctor name that went to jail for molesting all them? The sports person.
Oh yeah, the Michigan State or something.
Yeah, he in that category. Same category.
But you know, and then even in this case, he's got charges for 2 other girls, underage, whatever, criminal sexual conduct, combined into NaZiyah's case. I think a lot of people don't know that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my friend, I haven't had the time to look because I've been focusing on the preliminary, but somebody told me it was some additional charges put on him on Tuesday. So I
heard the one today. I heard
there was some additional charges on Tuesday, so I don't know.
I'll look it up.
I know a temp charge was put on him with the little girl that testified. That's a
I think that's what it was after her testimony.
After her testimony,
charges at him.
With an intent to do sexual.
And he made them watch. He made other children watch.
Right. You know what? That boy need to go on somewhere. Where is his? Who is he?
Yeah.
No one's asked, who is this person? Everybody's out after an innocent family. And I know, and I thank God for Tawana. I think that was her name, coming forth. And that had to be hard because I love my brothers with all my heart. I love my brothers, but I'm not going to stand behind wrong.
Yeah.
And I admire her for doing that. But if his family has got to be hurting because this is insane.
Yeah.
Brother, what did we do? What happened to you?
Yeah.
Something. That's where my mind
something happened to him.
What did somebody do to you? Did we not get you the proper help at the proper time? There's something else going on.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. I think we're gonna find out as the time goes on. It's gonna be more and more. This thing is so it's mind-boggling type of insane. Like it's just you couldn't make it up. That you wouldn't believe it if they made a movie out of it. But I want to go ahead and get ready to wrap up. I want to ask Yana and Janelle, let's do this again.
Yes.
Because this case is going to keep going on, and I think that we need to continue a pattern of educating the public and stamping out misinformation and things like that. We'll make decisions about it. We'll touch base and all of that. But I want to, you know, hopefully you guys will come back so
And
that
I
we
would
can,
definitely.
yeah, so that we can keep this going. And I think it would help a lot of things. And like I said, the misinformation, and I saw a lot of things today. Somebody thought that the family had put it out, that Shannon and her mother had put it out, that was trying to say that Jarvis was autistic. And I knew it was a situation with an autistic person as it relates to NaZiyah.
Yeah.
But but this is what happened when these little stories get out. It gets so twisted, and you know, it is not even close to the truth anymore by the time it circles back around. So, but I want to close out, and one of the things that I want to do, I always like to do when I do these live broadcasts, interviews, things like that, is to give out resources. Kawana said something very dear to my heart. Y'all excuse me. This case, I have to say, this is the only case that I never know when I'm gonna bust out crying. I'm not getting ready to cry. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. But Kiwana said something to me earlier today that I think is the most important thing as it stands right now, and that is to get to some solutions.
Absolutely.
And I think that the way that we do that is a part of the way that we do that is to be able to give people resources and things like that. And I want to direct the audience to the community wall on the channel on Community Advocate Network. I do post if you're in Michigan, especially if you're in the state of Michigan, where we are. I try to give resources for various things to help people, because some of these situations is just like there is a very excellent program called Covenant House here in Detroit. They have 2 locations, I believe, in Detroit and in Grand Rapids. I believe they take teens up to 24 years old. There are teen homelessness is like much bigger than what I realized. So, and there's a couple of other resources that Ms. Lori Clark Horton has provided for the network. And I have them all posted on the community wall. It's been a minute, so you're gonna have to scroll a little bit, or I'll repost them again. But it's very important that you guys find out what is out there and what is available for various situations. I don't care if you need help getting your light bill paid or whatever. But in this case, we want to start finding ways in improving ourselves as a community to protect our children. This insanity, as Lori called it, has to stop.
That's right.
Jarvis Butts cannot operate in our community. It's got to stop. Okay? So we're going to talk some more. I'm not going to preach tonight, y'all. I'm not going to preach tonight. But Kiwana shared with me something extremely important that she is trying to work on, and I'm going to close out with this, with a nonprofit organization